Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown between two warriors of legend. On the left-hand side, leading the Dark Elves, we have Stormrunner, and on the right, for Poland and his Dowie legions, who have been brought to Oakenhammer to defend their Dowie holds. Should be a good fun scrap. Now, for the most part, I do think Dark Elves have a slightly better fight here than the Dwarfs in this matchup, but it's not too terrible for the Dowie, as some matchups can be for them, certainly. On the left-hand side and the right-hand side, looks like we have a contingent of the Sisters of Slaughter, rolling dirty with Blackheart Corsairs. Very interested to see how these guys perform. Not the best armor piercing, but they are anti-infantry, and of course the Dwarfs only really know how to bring infantry. So a little contingent there on the left and on the right-hand side. If you look at the mini-map, this battle line is incredibly wide, taking up the entire width of the map. In the main force, we have Bleak Swords here to die and get exploded on by miners, but they can swarm and distract the enemy, while the rest of your build really packs a punch. And that punch is going to come in the form of 4 units of Dark Shards with shields. These guys have amazing AP, and because they're shields, they should be able to trade relatively cost-effectively up against Quarrelers and other such units. In the back, we have a Sorceress of Beast coming in with some wild form, as well as a Manticore summon, 2 very powerful spells. And leading the Dread Legions today is Lokir Fellheart. Look at that shot as he does charge headlong in with his men behind him. Now, Lokir Fellheart can be considered a bit of a meme by some, but I think this is one of the matchups he can perform really well in. With Dreaded Duelist, the fact he has regeneration in combat, he can go toe-to-toe with the majority of the Dowie Lords and come out on top. We have 2 units of Harpies on the back as well. It looks like the Crows of the Cane are going to be one of them. The Regiment of Renown, who are quite cool. And those guys just taken to the corners, once again looking to try to come down onto the back line of the Dwarvish folk. Now, for Poland, we do have Longbeards in the front line, as well as Dwarf Warriors with great weapons dotted all the way along. Nice mixture of the two. Longbeards hold for an absolute age of their 100 armor and 48 melee defense. Miners with Blast Chargers going to be using a secondary battle line, and this is how I like to use them for the most part as well. The front lines pin the enemy in place. Miners then get to blast him. We do have a unit of Hammers, so some elite Dowie warriors in the back here. We have Hammers being used to protect Thunderers. 2 units, in fact, of Thunderers are going to be in this build. We have Slayers, yeah, both Thunderers there. 2 Engineers. Master Engineers very good here because you need them to snipe out chariots. So I can certainly see them doing some good work there. And I've become a big fan of the double Master Engineer, both of which have the Fiery Ring of Thori as well, which is a little bit hard to aim, but if you aim it well, will certainly tear apart the front line of the Dark Elf forces. And leading the Dowie is going to be Grombrindle the White Dwarf, coming in actually with his axe, which is really expensive, but at the same time, extra 50% armor piercing weapon damage and minus 16 leadership can be pretty tasty. Flash Bomb, and Grombrindle has no fear, the original Space Marine. So, without further ado, let's get this battle underway. And Lokir is just yeeting, full-on charging. Look at him go! Just straight beaming towards that core of Dowie heroes. And he certainly does want to shut down this back line. Get rid of both those Thunderers and Engineers as quickly as possible. Lokir charges in onto the Dwarf Warriors with great weapons, assisted by the Bleak Swords here. They should have a relatively solid fight on their hands. And the Dark Elves on the flanks going to be looking to whip around, start getting those rear charges in. But in come the Miners with blasting charges, and PTSD is coming back for the Bleak Swords. Their morale starts to waver and break instantly. This blasting charges annihilating the Dark Elf front line. Dark Shards focusing down the Thunderers is a really good pick here. If you take away the range of this Dowie force, there's no mobility, so the Dark Shards should be able to reign supreme. But the front line's already buckled, and the Longbeards are just going to break formation and just start charging headlong into these Dark Shards. There's not much to protect them here either, so I like this play quite a bit. The Harpies a little bit out of position if they want to protect the back line, but of course they're more here to try to shut down the enemy range. Blackheart Corsairs continue to put pressure on some miners and chase them away. They have blast and charges, so getting them down early would be quite a nice pick. And we have an ultimate fight in the middle. Lokir getting the snot kicked out of him, it seems. Rune Axe of Grombrindle has been popped, and the Flash Bomb coming down on Lokir Fellheart. There are some miners to assist. Looks like the Dowie not playing fair in the 1v1 duel. Lokir with Dread Duelist popped would probably be able to win this, but looks like he may have used it slightly early on. In the background, Crows of Cain do dart down on the Thunderers, going to be doing some nice damage to them. Miners are here to support, likewise the Hammers, and Hammers will make quick work there of the Harpies. Engineer is currently firing in the middle. Looks like he's focusing down the Feral Manticore, trying to rampage it a little bit, so it stops annoying his back line where possible. But Sisters of Slaughter, as well as some more Blackheart Corsairs, have done a long trek all the way around the side, looking to try to punish this back line. Slayers are caught up with Sisters of Slaughter, and this is going to be a bloody affair. Both of these guys, huge damage dealers. Sisters of Slaughter, though, certainly going to have the better time. I would not want to face someone who can use a whip in battle. That'd be a horrific thing to actually kind of get to grips with. In the distance, though, the Dark Shards have been sent running in all directions. Bleak Swords have been desperately used to try to protect them. The Dwarf Warriors are cleaving them asunder with mighty axes. However, the Longbeards are attacking in kind of drips and drabs now. You can see one unit on this side, one unit on this side, are now being kited rather masterfully by Stormrunner, splits up his forces so he can crossfire and drag them down. But it is keeping them away from the main fight, which is quite good news for the Dowie folk. Manticore does land, going toe-to-toe with this Master Engineer. Grombrindle is nearby, but he pats that Engineer on the back and says, "Don't worry, I've got absolute faith in you," and then he runs away in the other direction. Pushing forward, though, to the Sisters of Slaughter and Bleak Swords, he really needs to get in here and start chewing through the Sisters as quickly as possible, because otherwise they will dumpster the Miners and Longbeards quite comfortably. The Grombrindle has no fear, there you go. Grombrindle has no fear, has been popped, giving him that 24 melee defense onto the Miners as well. Looks like one of the rings is going to be coming down, and it does manage to catch some Bleak Swords. I'd like to see it saved, though, for the end game, but maybe it was used on one that was going to die. No, they're both healthy. Definitely would have saved those for the Dark Shards to really try to carve them up or use them on the Sisters of Slaughter. Hammer's looking healthy, up to 77 kills, and now pushing into the rear of these Bleak Swords, who are really not well equipped to deal with the mighty hammers of the Hammerers. Flash Bomb going down as well, lowering their melee defense to a pitiful 9. Oh, that's not good news for these Bleak Swords. It looks like they are going to be getting slaughtered, but the Dark Shards are back, which is really good news for the Dark Elves. Balance power is slightly in their favour. Loki Felheart's regen only works when he's in combat. Master Engineer is taking full advantage of this, just trying to shoot him and pick him apart from long range, which is a real nice play. Thunder's trying to trade shots with those Dark Shards, but it's not going to go too well. There's 2 units versus the 1, and those 2 units have a lot more bolts than there are bullets for the Thunderers. This is Slaughter still doing a fantastic job, up to 130 kills, a real MVP in this matchup for sure. Thunderers are getting dragged down now as these other 2 units of Dark Shards are quite happily firing in, but the infantry is basically gone for the Dark Elves. In the distance, we do have the Sorceress of Beast, but she's used both to Manticore summons now. Whilst in Wild Form, not going to be too useful on some of the remaining units. Sister's Slaughter can be used to try to push in once more, and the Harpies, not the Crows of Cain, looks like they've been dealt with, are feasting upon the Miners as well as the Slayers for now, but Hammerers are here for quick support. Dark Shards just coobing shots in from all angles. Poor Sisters of Slaughter finally going down, not before they rack up a rather impressive 144 kills now. And the Hammers are taking an absolute beating. Look at the amount of bolts coming in. Oh, you need to raise those Dowie shields. It looks like the Dwarfs trying to protect themselves where possible. Hammers, of course, have no luxury of shields, and unfortunately are going down rather quickly as more bolts do start to pour in, and the Dowie leadership is wavering and breaking. Grombrindle still looking rather solid though. Likewise the Master Engineer. Now Loki needs to get in there and start dishing some damage to some of the more squishy characters and units so he can heal up, because all he's doing at the moment is taking damage from the Master Engineers. He's trying to juke back and forth, which is a good shout, but at the same time very risky because Engineers are pretty accurate troops. Dark Shards considering shooting into the Engineers, so it seems, to get them off the field, which is again a quite good play, although the bolts not going to be as good taking down single entities as they are units, as a lot of the Dwarvish forces are running for their lives, so there's nothing to chase them off in the back here, so they may be able to come back. With a full health unit of Blackheart Corsairs rushing to meet their doom, as there is a mixture of Hammerers, Slayers and Miners here. Certainly not going to go too well for the Blackheart Corsairs, I don't think, but they are going to have some Bleak Sword support, and 2 of the Dark Shards are now firing in. In the distance, a beautiful foray ring goes down those Dark Shards, doing some massive damage to them, as they do get a little bit close to these Master Engineers who are currently hiding in the forests. Loki Felheart has been pushed off as well. 0 leadership may come back, but only 139 health. He's really going to struggle now to get those good engagements where he can use regen. Hammers piling in alongside the Slayers onto the Blackheart Corsairs with their dual-wielding blades. Are going to slice and dice the Slayers, decapitating the Dwarfish folk. No! He's been crumbled to the ground, and the Hammers are rather outnumbered right now, particularly with the Dark Shard shots coming in. I don't think they're going to last too well, and that is a pretty meaty unit of Blackheart Corsairs to pin in the remainder of the troops whilst the Dark Shards use up their ammo, but another foray ring comes down. Ooh, that hurts anyway. I'm sure if there's any Dark Elf fans in there, that is painful to see, catching both units there doing some nice damage, but it doesn't really kill models. It's better at doing HP damage, which is not too good for the Dwarf situation because they really want to shut down the number of crossbow bolts that are coming in after them. Master Engineers do finish off Loki as he is face down in the dirt, a rather unheroic end for such a mighty warrior, and he did really struggle here today. The Grombrindle of the White Dwarf is now getting shot to pieces, actually saying that he's juking relatively well, but when those bolts do connect, they are breaking through his armour and doing some nice damage, and there's a lot of Dark Shards left, And I do agree with shooting Grombrindle here, because he doesn't really have any other ways of killing him, because he'll be able to go toe-to-toe with Black Ark Corsairs for a long time. So trying to focus him down where possible is always a good shout. And it looks like apart from the hero core, the majority of the Dairy forces are running back to their mountain holds. Some Thunderers may return and miners, but they're not going to be able to make it back to the battlefield to make a difference. Sorcerer Beast can pop down her buffs, of course. She hasn't used too much Winds of Magic, so buffing up the Black Ark Corsairs may help them take down this hero core. Grombrindle is duking back and forth, whilst the Master Engineers, who have an insane amount of ammunition, they really do bring a load to the table, are going to be sitting here and shooting Dark Shards. You can see those poor Dark Elves being flung backwards. They may want to focus down that Sorcerer Beast, try to break the leadership of the Dark Elf forces, because they run really low on ammunition at this point, and then it's going to be a bunch of Dark Shards in combat up against Dwarvish heroes. Not a good sign for the Dwarfs. Grombrindle, though, down to 1,900 health at this point. Still duking rather well. Sorceress is going to be charging in and gets hit by a flash bomb. That is going to slow down that horse to a real steady, slow pace. Keep going, Sorceress, keep going. Watson's Wild Form has been popped, increasing that armor and base weapon damage. Obviously, just wanted that for the 70 armor, and is going to be falling back. And Grombrindle has kind of fallen for a trap here, because he was duking before and avoiding a lot of the shots by pursuing the Sorceress. He was going in a straight line, and all of a sudden took a bucket ton of damage to the face from the Dark Shards, who are now running very low on ammunition. In fact, 3 units are completely done. This other unit down just to 1 volley. Trying to use it on the hammers. Certainly doesn't want these elite Dowie Guardians to come back and protect Grombrindle. Last volley going in should be enough to break the hammers. Looks like it has succeeded. Now the Sorcerer can simply chase them off for good. You can see the Dwarvish forces have kind of been isolated now. Grombrindle's over here on his pursuit of the Sorceress, whereas the Master Engineers are now fighting alone up against the Black Ark Corsairs. The Master Engineers have relatively decent melee stats for specialist support characters, but Black Ark Corsairs have that anti-infantry, and they're really now carving into these Master Engineers, doing a lovely bit of damage on them. One has already started to rout, the other one very close here as well. Balance of power is pretty much dead even, though. Grombrindle is a big problem. Whiten Wild Form has been popped, upgraded to make it air effect. That's really cool. I didn't know that that's what it did. And it's given all these guys an extra base 30% base weapon damage and 30 armor. So 60 armor, certainly no joke. Grombrindle, though, seems to be more than up for the task. He has a 1 or 2 grudges to settle with the Dark Elf Kindreds, and he's now 1,000 HP, slamming at Dark Elves left, right and centre. And a big problem here could be the leadership of these Dark Shards. They're really not used to being in this type of situation in close quarters. Sorcerer Beast is chasing off that Master Engineer, should be able to shatter him eventually. Likewise, the other Master Engineer is being driven off by the Black Ark Corsairs and should be getting dragged down here. A big fat flash bomb has gone down. That's lowering the melee defense of the Dark Shards to a mighty 1. And Grombrindle is going to be making up the numbers. He may be surrounded, he may be alone, but he still is the White Dwarf and exploding. So many Dark Elves. I saw heads rolling all over the place. This fellow is a true champ. Somehow getting back up, slamming his shield into the ground, and moving back to have a second round up against Grombrindle. But every single swing of that mighty axe is just decapitating limbs and heads. There's so many dead Dark Elves now around Grombrindle, and he's still coming in with nearly 800 health. Runeaxe of Grombrindle has been popped, lowering the leadership of nearby foes, and that rather expensive item could prove pivotal here in the end game, because the best way for Grombrindle to win this is by breaking all of these forces and shattering them. The big problem shall be those Black Ark Corsairs in the distance. Might be worth even heading over this way and trying to intercept them when they're attacking the Master Engineer, because they're going to take a while to drag him down, and if he can come back and he has a fiery ring left, that'd be an absolute game changer if the enemy bunch up on Grombrindle and the fire ring then dismembers the rest of the infantry. How's that Sorceress doing? Looks like she's slowly going about her business, taking down that Master Engineer, who's not shattered yet, but he should very shortly. He's minus 34 leadership and only 158 health. Dark Shards are lining up once more. It looks like they're waiting patiently for those Black Ark Corsairs to break off the Master Engineers before coming back to the main fray, and also allowing the Sorceress, of course, to come back, because Whiten's Wild Form on those Black Ark Corsairs is going to be very tasty indeed. Grombrindle's exhausted, but nonetheless, he is still confident. Moving forward, up to 122 kills and a whopping 1,660 damage value. Isn't great. I guess he's been mainly focusing down the cheaper chaff, though. But still a rather heroic stand as he comes in, overhanded strike into the ground like the mighty Thor, and just destroying Dark Shards. So many of them going down. Their leadership is already at 1 just by being in contact with the White Dwarf. And it looks like they are going to rout once more. And if you rout too many times, you will indeed shatter. So these guys need to be a little careful coming in the drips and drabs. Those Master Engineers just simply do not want to shatter. I guess they know Grombrindle is indeed watching. One of them has finally been forced off the field. Sorceress of the Beast can now come back to try and boost up the morale of these troops and keep them nice and fighty. Grombrindle continuing to beat down these Dark Shards. He's getting wore down. He's exhausted now, not having a good day whatsoever. But at the same time, he's been slaying Dark Elves. I suppose it's never a bad day when you're killing Dark Elves. Blackheart Corsairs should be able to cut up this Master Engineer down to just 400 health, -6 leadership. I understand the want, though, to completely shatter it, because if it does come back, the fire rings could be a big pain, but also those bullets may be enough to break off the remainder of the Dark Elf forces. Balance power is very heavy in the Dark Elf favour, but Grombrindle is looking pretty scary. He's constantly broken off these Dark Shards, are doing very minimal damage. Sorceress is waving as well, and if he gets the Rune Axe up again and gets one hit on her, she's going to be shattered for good, and the Blackheart Corsairs leadership isn't 100%. When they're up in combat against such a mighty lord, I can certainly see them struggling. Sorceress is going to come over here just to help finish off that Master Engineer a little bit quickly, and we will fast forward as the Goose Chase does continue. Master Engineer does shatter, and it is Grombrindle against the world. And against the world, I mean one unit and a Sorceress, which certainly isn't too much here. Looks like he is going to be going in for that final fight. Wildstorm Wildform has been popped down, but Grombrindle, Rune Axe is active, giving that -16 leadership and better armor-piercing weapon damage. Now, he doesn't need the armor-piercing here, down to just 400 health, though, but he is whacking the Blackheart Corsairs back with a fury. He's saving that smoke bomb for the Sorceress, waiting for her to commit, and then he can pop it down by a lovely little swing, cutting off a few heads of the Blackheart Corsairs. And it looks like the Rune Axe is still active, and the Flash Bomb has come down, really nuking the leadership of these guys. Blackheart Corsairs down to 17 leadership as he turns and slaps that Sorceress, slaying her and fulfilling a grudge. Blackheart Corsairs barely holding on leadership-wise now. It looks like it's coming back as the Rune Axe does start to turn off, and Grombrindle's near comeback, really struggling now at 68 HP. It looks like the Blackhawks may just about be able to drag him down. 31 left, only 33 health on Grombrindle. Good odds for any dwarf, I say. But a couple of slices surrounding him, and he does fall. That was an insanely epically close fight. You can't get much closer than that. Blackheart Corsair is wavering up against an incredibly low health Grombrindle. We can also see the dead Sorceress being dragged down, and that's something Grombrindle certainly would do, I think. In his death throes, drag down a mighty character, but he is now laying face down in the muck as the Blackheart Corsair, who did slay him, no doubt shall be receiving a promotion pretty soon. Epic game by Stormrunner and for Poland. Love to see these guys on the channel, and hopefully we'll see a rematch between them soon, because I'm attempting to organise a clan war as well between DBD and Sons of the Mountain. We've got quite a busy stream schedule, but it should be coming in the next couple of weeks. Well played to these two champs. What did you think of that one? We will get through the damage value and damage stats in just a second. Those Dark Shards probably got insane work, all 4 units using up their ammunition. But before we get to there, feel free, if you enjoyed this video, to leave a little like down below, as well as commenting what was your favourite moment, who is your MVP, what would you like to see in the future. Feel free to subscribe as well. It really does help out the channel, and we're pushing on now to that 5k sub mark, which is very exciting stuff. So yeah, feel free to do that. If you enjoy Total War Warhammer content, in the description as well. If you are wondering how do you submit replays to me, how do you yell quack at me in the loudest way possible, join my Discord. It's right down there in the description. You can submit replays, get involved in tournaments I host and events, practice your skills against new as well as competitive players, and just have a nice chill time. There's also links down there to Patreon, and if you're looking to pre-order any of the Total War Warhammer free stuff, if you're looking to buy Warhammer, I do have an account down below on, oh god, I forget the name of it, but it's down there somewhere, and it will basically give you the game for the same price. Sometimes they do special offers, but at the same time, it pushes a little bit of money my way, and it is completely approved by CA. But anyway, enough of all that YouTube rubbish. On to the good stuff. Stormrunner, low KFL Heart. He's a big fan of him. How did he perform? Only 700 damage value. Unfortunately, getting a little bit kind of teabagged on by Grombrindle, which can happen to the best of us, and then getting forced off and using up a lot of the ammunition of the Master Engineers. I think the kiting bit of darts back and forth is a small mistake, because the Master Engineers have so much ammunition they're eventually going to kill you regardless. But apart from that, Stormrunner played pretty damn amazing. Sorcerer of the Beast coming in with the well-timed buffs and Manticore summons. Blink Swords, of course, are here to die, and those Miners of Blast and Charges just obliterated them. But lovely to see Blackheart Corsairs being used. One unit did okay with the 400 damage value, but the other one, 1.2k. Lovely combination with the buff from the Sorceress. Scissors of Slaughter, always been pretty good in this matchup. 955 damage here. On the other one, 1,144 kills. The Harpies across the board performed relatively poorly, but their main job isn't to get that damage value, it's just to shut down the guns long enough for the Dark Shards to finish them off. And speaking of Dark Shards, I got a feeling this is going to be pretty disgusting. So 93, 98, 65 and 77 kills, but what was the damage value? 1,244, 1,355, 983, 1,053. I think that basically tells you the tale of this battle, the Dwarfs being outshot. Fun build by 4 as well. I do like the double Master Engineers, and they both performed really well. 1,175 damage value on one, 1.8k on the other. If only they could have used their fire rings and the end stages, they certainly would have won. But that's also due to good targeting by Stormrunner to get them off the field when he did. Now, Master Engineers, as well as the Gunnery Wights, have kind of come more and more into the meta, I think. These characters who can just consistently do damage on enemy wizards and characters over the long course of the battle, getting really popular, and I love to see it. The White Dwarf, 190 kills, certainly going down with a bit of a raw, 2.3k damage value as well, not too shabby. Miser Blaster Child's got pretty good damage value, 666 here. This looks like this unit was worshipping the Chaos Gods. 619 and 371. Doing some pretty good damage across the board. 619, I feel like that's a wrestling move or something. But anyway, they did good damage getting rid of the Bleak Sword front line. Sorry for the tangent there. I feel like 619 is a 319 or something is something. Maybe you can let me know down below in the comments what 619 represents. The Dwarf Warriors with Great did unfortunately get pummeled a little bit. Likewise, the Longbeards didn't get the best damage value. Turn did okay. The Dark Shards really pummeled them. Likewise, the Hammerers did okay. 1.2k damage value here, 700 on the other one. And I like the pick here because they're very good up against Chariots. They've got decent mass and can bring those hammers down on them really hard and break Chariots rather quickly. Slayers, 681 damage value, not too shabby. The Thunderers, unfortunately, though, for the Dwarvish forces, just getting shot down immediately by the over-enveloping forces of the Dark Elves, as well as those Harpies committing on that suicide charge to hold them in place and allow the Dark Shards to really deal that punishment. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed. Until next time, peace, peace. And as always, stay awesome.